Hey there guys, it's Steph, and today I am really excited to bring you the video that I have been wanting to make for a while now, probably going on a couple of months, and this has been pretty much a 2-year project, which we are now culminating in what I'm bringing here to you. So, with that said, today we are going to be talking about The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It is a 1998 Nintendo classic. It's regularly at the top of best video games ever lists, and when I was growing up, I never had an opportunity to play this game because, well, I didn't own an N64, and while that's probably not a good excuse, it is the one that I have. Pretty much until recently, I have not had an opportunity to play Ocarina of Time in its original form. So, what I wanted to do is I felt, and for years, extremely guilty that I had never played this masterpiece, this classic game that everybody loves, that my friends adore, that regularly is revered as one of the best games ever made, if not the best game ever made. And so me as a self-identified gamer, that was a real wake-up call, and I knew that I needed to play this game. So I still do not own an N64, I never have. So what we did is, with the help of 2 of my friends, we decided to set aside a Zelda day. This was actually going as far back as the summer of 2014. So they have set up an annual Zelda day where they would play Ocarina of Time and 100% completion in like a day and a half to 2 days over a weekend or something during the summer. So this time I decided to invite myself to this party. What basically happened is that instead of having a Zelda day, it turned into a Zelda year and a half. Because, well, at the time, all of us were working different jobs. It was summer. I might have been taking a class or something. And so, well, we didn't beat it in that day, that weekend, or even that summer. So what ended up happening is that over the next year and a half, and it did take about a year and a half, when we could meet, we would usually play for 5 to 6 hours at a time, or until I got frustrated enough to throw the controller and back out. So it ended up taking a while for a number of reasons, you know, the first of all being just that life got in the way and we had more important things going on, and secondly, I am not very good at this game. With all of that said, now I get to come to you as a person who hasn't grown up with this nostalgia, who didn't play it as a child. I think I was 21 when I first started playing Zelda, so this was my first Zelda game. I've never played Zelda at all, so this was definitely a first for me, and it's a milestone for me because I really cherish gaming as a whole, and for me to not have had this is kind of weird. So, especially seeing as all of the people that I'm really good friends with are huge Zelda fans, and they're really into it, and I just know how important Zelda is to so many people around the world. For me, not having had that, I come into Zelda with very fresh eyes and very critical eyes. It is a really strange experience to play Zelda for the first time when you're 21 years old and then not even finish the game until I was 23. So with all of that said, we're gonna go into my different categories that I've set aside here, and I know that intro is really long, but there's a lot to say. I mean, this is a huge game. It's a really important game, and I want to get everything I have to say out, so hang tight, okay? This is a 1998 Nintendo 64 game, and I did want to make sure that I played it in its original form, so we didn't emulate it on the Wii U. I didn't have the 3DS version, so I played the original game in its original form on like a 72-inch HD TV. So in terms of graphics, not so hot because, you know, N64 was built for a native square aspect ratio, and when you play it on a gigantic HD TV in your friend's basement, it just doesn't really work. Everything is distorted and pixelated, and, you know, even if I played it on our old tube TV, like, that wouldn't have made a difference. The graphics were still gonna suck, and I acknowledge they were probably really great at the time, especially compared to what I think is the most comparable game at the time would be Final Fantasy VII, which came out in 1997. So, I mean, especially compared to that, like, Zelda was incredible. I mean, that huge 3D world, that horse animation, you know, the sword swinging, everything would have looked really awesome back then, but, you know, I can't lie, graphics in hindsight really suck. I hate saying that something has aged well, but they really haven't. But I will give it credit because I thought all of the animations were, like, really smooth, and I didn't experience any glitching or anything. You know, the environments were, I thought, pretty awesome once I learned how to navigate them. Moving on to the music and sound, now that is where I think Ocarina really shines. Honestly, the main theme, the Hyrule Field theme that plays, I think is probably one of the best pieces of symphony ever. I mean, especially if you listen to, like, an orchestral version of that song. I think it's so uplifting and it's so empowering, and I love it and I adore it. And, you know, I felt that though the music is kind of scarce for a lot of the game, when there is a soundtrack, it tends to really be powerful and it really stands out. And I thought that the sound design as a whole, from the sound that chimes when you open a door or when you complete a puzzle and you get the do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do, I think the sound design and direction is spot on. And when I think of Ocarina of Time and what really sticks out to me the most, it's definitely the music and the sound and everything going on there, the sound effects and everything from Link's ha-ya when he's, like, attacking. It's just so memorable. And even me and my sort of faulty older person memory is, like, that still sticks out to me, and I won't forget that. And it's now something that I can joke about, right? Like, I'm part of the club now. Definitely, I would give it, like, 25 out of 10 in terms of the sound design and direction. It was just so good. So good. Spot on. But when I want to talk about the storyline, this is difficult for me to approach simply because I did, yes, play this game over the span of a very long period of time. And you know, I can't even keep track of my TV shows between seasons. And so it was difficult for me to really follow what was going on at all times. I mean, it's relatively simple, right? Like, boy travels through time with a magic ocarina, and then he plays magic songs with said ocarina, and things happen, and he's collecting these medallions, and then once we have all the medallions, we're like magic, and we can go fight Ganondorf, and everything's fine. There's a princess who also is like a ninja, and she's kind of cool, but we're not supposed to know that she's a ninja / sheik. Storyline-wise, it's a fairly simple narrative of, you know, young hero saves the world from darkness and ruin. And one thing that I am really interested in, some kind of, like, psychoanalytic paper. I hope that somebody has written this, and I would love to read it, so if you have seen something like this, please forward it my way. One thing that does stick out to me is the really weird sexual tension in this game between Link and all of the literally all of the female characters. It sticks out because, right, he's a young boy, but so he gets the Master Sword, and by picking the Master Sword out of the stone, he transports himself 7 years in the future. And so, like, now he's a boy in the body of an adult. And what I don't understand is, like, he hasn't lived those 7 years of his life. Like, he was a prepubescent boy, and now he is, like, in his prime. Link, right? He's in his prime. It's just like, well, this boy never went through puberty. As soon as he becomes an adult, he's literally getting hit on by all of the women in the game. And it becomes a harem. It absolutely is. You have Ruto, you have Zelda, you have Saria, you have Nabooru, and you have Malon, right? Like, all of these women pretty much throw themselves at Link, and, like, a lot of it's for laughs. Like, it's just like a comedy harem anime. It's just fascinating to me that this boy is getting all of this attention, and it's just, I don't have an answer, I don't have a reading of it, I just think it's interesting, and I would love to know if anybody has worked on it, you know, because I think it's never touched upon in the game itself about what Link's thinking, because Link is a blank slate. Like, you are supposed to be Link. Like, Link, you're allowed to name Link whatever you want. So, I mean, I am a sucker for default names, so I went with Link. I wasn't going to name him after myself, even though I certainly could have, and maybe that would have changed things, but I don't think so. So it's still just really interesting. It's a total aside, total tangent. Alright, so controls and gameplay. Let me tell you how many times I died fighting everything from Likes to Morpha to Ganon, Ganondorf. Phantom Ganon was the worst for me, to be honest. Dead Hands, like, me playing this game with an N64 controller that I loathe. I think it's the worst controller ever. And not playing it consistently, not building up the skill needed to play this game properly was really a slap in the face, and it was terrible, and this game sucked, and I hated playing pretty much every minute of it. Physically, you know, playing, using the joystick, and moving around in this world was a nightmare, because you could barely control the camera. You had some degree of camera control, but it was pretty shitty, and you know, trying to Z-target, because you literally can't do anything without Z-targeting in this fucking game. And, like, so trying to Z-target anything was nightmarish, and I could never get Link to where I needed him to be, and I died platforming so many times, and it's just absolutely ridiculous, and I have to, like, get this out because, you know, even as a kid, like, you probably remember it better now because, well, that's what time does. It's abysmal, everything sucks. I don't, like, want to play that game again. If I play it again, I will not be playing the N64 version because everything handles like crap, and I don't even want to deal with it. There's a part in the very first dungeon, the Great Deku Tree, where you have to jump from, like, the 3rd level of the dungeon and, like, jump into the spider web. And guess what? I totally missed it because the camera sucks, and so I died because I didn't hit the spider web. I was off by, like, a foot of, like, in-game space, which was probably, like, a couple of pixels. So it was really stupid, and I didn't want to deal with it. And I ended up rage quitting Zelda so many times. Let me tell you, Bongo was the bane of my existence, and I do believe, like, I have never rage quit a game so so furiously before. But I do believe that I had my N64 controller, I died against Bongo Bongo like 4 or 5 times, and resetting to get to Bongo Bongo was not easy. It was not fast. That's another part that really sucks. There was no easy reset. You had to reset from your last save. The way the memory works in this game, I have no fucking idea how it works, and it really pissed me off because I would save literally in the room before a boss, get like all my fairies ready to go or whatever, and if I still died, which I did, trust me, I still died with 2 to 3 fairies in my inventory, like, because I'm that bad at Zelda. Like, I never claimed to be good at games, and Zelda is definitely not my forte. I would save, and then die, and then guess what? Oh, you have 3 hearts, you have no fairies, and you're at the beginning of the dungeon. So, good luck with that. Like, it's like, fuck you. It's the biggest fuck you I've ever seen in a game. I have never, I'll tell you, I've never been this enraged by a game before. I think a lot of it has to do with just not playing it consistently. That is absolutely a factor, but it's also a factor of that I think the control scheme of this game sucks, and the controller sucked, and, well, I didn't grow up with it, and, you know, I have no remorse. Bongo Bongo made me throw a controller, say, I'm out, I'm done, I'm never playing this fucking game again, and I peaced out, gave it a few days, watched video tutorials, and guess what? Still didn't beat him the next time I fought him. Now that that tirade is out of the way, the last thing that I want to discuss is just what I thought generally of this game. And so while it infuriated me to no end, and it took me a really long time to finish it because I would get very easily flustered and frustrated, it still ultimately is like a really cool game. And there's a lot going for it. You know, I said at the beginning that just the sound effects really are what really stick out to me about this game, and I think are really important and has stuck with people and have made people like this series. And maybe they were into it more for like the thrilling combat or whatever, but for me, I think this game is a classic and it is a masterpiece in a lot of ways. Would I put it in my top 10 even? No. I don't have the memories, I don't have the associations with it. So not having that experience really makes a difference for me. And do I still think it's an awesome game? Of course. This is the Nintendo Selects version of this game. Like, it just came out. It's now $20 on the 3DS eShop. And so, like, I'm absolutely gonna get it. And I'm absolutely going to spend more time exploring, because when I played it, I kind of just wanted to get through it. I didn't do all of the side quests. I barely touched any of them, really. I just wanted to play through it just to get that Zelda experience. And so now that I've had that and I kind of have a better idea of where to go, which was still trouble, like, this game doesn't hold your hand at all, so I would have been lost a lot without the help of my friends and the strategy guide. So thanks for that, guys. You know, ultimately, it's worth a replay, and I want to replay it, and I want to see more of this world, because I really enjoyed it. And I've actually, since I have beaten Ocarina of Time, I got Twilight Princess, and I think Twilight Princess, I have the GameCube version of it, fixed a lot of the problems that I had with Ocarina, and so I'm actually really enjoying that. I'm about halfway through that myself. Like, Ocarina is so important to so many people, and it just doesn't register the same way for me. It was really just a bucket list thing that I needed to play this game because I know that it is a seminal piece of gaming history, and so now I have finally had that, and I feel much better now that I do. So, even though it was terrible for a lot of it. One sort of other random thing that I wanted to add is just that, very simply, at its core, the whole boy and his horse story really, really moved me. And I knew, like, the first thing I wanted to do was get Epona. I wanted my horse. Like, I have been a horse nut my whole life, so that's one thing. And the second thing is that, like, riding on that horse, getting that horse, shooting arrows from the back of your horse, swinging your sword from the back of the horse, is the clearest inspiration for my favorite game, Shadow of the Colossus. Everything about just riding through Hyrule Field, shooting arrows at the skeleton dudes, and going ham on that horse really, really moved me. I could see the influence that it had on Shadow and the way that that game is handled, because it is literally all about a boy and his horse in this emptied landscape that has been desolate and doomed. And so that was a really cool realization for me to come to. So I definitely do appreciate it for that reason. With all of that said, this has been a hard video for me to make, and I've wanted to get this out, and I want to get it, you know, committed that, like, I didn't like this game as much as I thought I would, and I wasn't necessarily prepared for that. It has so many redeeming factors. Like, obviously, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I just thought that the controls were shitty, and that kind of makes it hard to play. And I'm glad that I finally made it happen. I think I have about exhausted everything that I can try to say about Zelda. Definitely thanks for watching and listening and tuning in. The next video is definitely going to be on Tales of Symphonia. That's kind of another classic game that I had been wanting to tackle, and I did it, and so I'll be working on that next. I do have a Twitter poll available for the next game that I'm gonna play. I have 4 options, and I don't know what to play next, so help me out. Give me a break from some Fire Emblem. So I will include the link in the description and probably somewhere down here. So go check that out. There's a couple days left on a Twitter poll. So go vote, please, and let me know what you think. So otherwise, thanks so much. Have a good one.